We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Footballs. Peek around the corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We love everything in college football. That's why we cover everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button. If you like our content, share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this show, this Rebel Outpost college football show, with a donation, just hit the $sign and make a comment, and I'll get to you super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner, the very corner of Keith Jackson Parkway in Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend in the chat room and with the phone calls later in the show. It seems to be a little bit of a lazy Thursday, late afternoon, early evening. There's been a lot of things going on. Maybe we're taking a little bit of a breath, a little bit of a take, a little bit of a breath, a little bit of a just, but you know what? Everything's going to change real quick. Everything's going to change. Everything's going to change real quick. So enjoy this little moment of relaxation. I mean, my goodness, you have, remember, the portal opens up April 16th. Every time I turn on the computer, This guy's going in the portal. This guy's rumored to go in the portal. The coaches are scared. There's going to be all types of movement. It's all over the place. April 16th, it's going to be chaos. And we at Peek Around the Corner, we're going to do the best we can to cover it all. It is a difficult task, but we're going to do it. We're going to try to do it. It's going to be a lot of drama. April 16th. So buckle up, brace for impact. Then of course, before April 16th, the ACC is going to have to release that media rights agreement. A lot of it's still going to be redacted, but some of it is going to be unredacted. And I want to take a look at it. I've been hitting that refresh button constantly. That has to be uploaded. That has to be put on the Mecklenburg County Court file system by April 15th. On or before April 15th. It's April 11th. It could happen during this live show, so keep your head on a swivel. So we got that. April 22nd, we're going to be covering live just like we did on April 9th. April 22nd, day 2, part 2 of discussing the pleadings in the Florida State, Leon County in front of Judge C. Cooper. Florida State versus ACC, and I can't wait. I cannot wait. We're going to be covering that live. So that's April 22nd. You got all this stuff going on. It's chaos in April in college football. Today, we're going to be talking about the AAC, new commissioner, turning his conference room into Shark Tank. That's what he said. I kind of like it. He's coming out aggressive. He is coming out aggressive. And I think that should be a little bit of a hint. We've talked about this before. I think there's going to be a lot of movement. In the G5 conferences. He doesn't want to call them G5. I understand that. But for the sake of discussion here, we're going to continue to call them G5 for now. And I think he wants to make sure that the AAC, they just lost some big time value brands when it comes to, in relative terms, in the AAC. They just lost them to the Big 12. Right? They lost UCF, they lost Houston, they lost Cincinnati. They added on a bunch of schools. And he says there is room for more in the AAC. But it's just not that. I think, and we'll get into it, but I think the AAC commissioner is looking over there, looking over to the west. He doesn't know what's happening over there. He doesn't know what's going on over there. He knows that Washington State and Oregon State are sitting on a boatload of cash. The new commissioner, the ACC, knows. He knows that Oregon State, Washington State are going to be forming a conference. Because if they don't, then they're going to lose some of that money to the other 10 formerly known Pac-12 schools per their divorce settlement. No. Washington State and Oregon State are either going to be joining the ACC or they're going to be forming their own conference. And if they form their own conference, all those schools might not come out of the Mountain West. They might pick off a couple AAC schools. The ACC commissioner came out he came out throwing punches today. And I like it. I like what he said because I've been pretty frustrated, as you all know, when it comes to Tony Petitti, the Big Ten commissioner, not saying anything in front of the camera about the future of this college football and college athletics that we love. We need vision. I talked about the vision of PATC, but then I'm just the fat guy from Minnesota. The very first episode of this channel, the manifesto, we talk about how the sport is going to have collective bargaining agreement. Student athletes going to become some sort of employee, and they're going to get representation. We talked about this, direct payment, contracts to be legitimate to the front of the courts. Tony Petitti won't say a word. He won't say a word. He's been the commissioner now for how long? And then you got Greg Sankey, who's against all this. Okay, you're against all this, but come on, can't you read the tea leaves? Can't you listen to what the courts are telling you? Don't you understand that we're in a political election year and the chances of you getting a carve out, come on, before the House versus NCAA comes, I tell you, I am so frustrated with Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey. I've talked about this before. And I get hammered on by Big Ten fans and SEC fans. I don't care. There's no strings attached here. None. Anyways, I'm all fired up. It was supposed to be a lazy, nice little Thursday late afternoon, but now I'm all fired up. I kind of like this AAC new commissioner. We're going to talk about it in an article on ESPN and Front Office Sports. Two short little articles. Then, before we get to the then, let me say thank you to Big Dog Daddy for your incredible super chat. Thank you for your continued generosity. Welcome, Rebel Leader Greg Flugar. Holy smokes. Rebel Leader, thank you, Big Dog Daddy. I do appreciate it. Do appreciate your super chat. Thank you so very much for your generosity, for your kindness to this program. Expedition Greg. Holy smokes. Once again, Expedition Greg puts out a gifted membership to the PATC community. Thank you so much, Expedition Greg. You are hereby officially once again knighted Cloak and Dagger. Thank you, Expedition Greg, for your continued generosity to this channel. And here comes the evil badger. Ryan Willie, the ACC and ESPN will risk contempt of court and not upload the grant of rights. It's not the grant of rights. The grant of rights is already uploaded. The grant of rights is already in the Mecklenburg County Court. It's one of the PDFs on there. Happened in March. It's the media agreement. It's the 160-page whatever media agreement, which a lot of it is redacted. Some of that has to be unredacted and it has to be put out in public view. That is Judge Bledsoe's ruling in Mecklenburg County Court. And it has to be done on or before April 15th. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for your super chat, for your generosity, Evil Badger. I do appreciate it. Let me say what we're going to do after we talk about the AAC. We're going to go over, and I let him know, I gave him a message. The dude of West Virginia, Christopher Lambert, put out an interesting thread on X, formerly known as Twitter. Now, it is legendary. if you've been around the bend, if you've been around here for over the last decade, myself and Christopher Lambert, the dude, the fat guy from Minnesota, and the dude of West Virginia, we used to go at it. We used to go at it in legendary arguments, discussions, but we both have gotten old, and we both know how stupid all that was. We just happen to disagree at times and agree at times. But the dude of West Virginia put out a pretty interesting thread. And I think it has a lot of merit. And what we've called it here at Peek Around the Corner is, he did not term this, we termed it. We coined the phrase, the velvet hand of ESPN. Could ESPN engineer some sort of solution to solve everybody's parties, all the issues in front of everybody? The ACC, Clemson, and Florida State, ESPN, can everything be solved by ESPN's velvet hand? Moving things around, I'm going to go through West Virginia, the dude of West Virginia's thread here on X. And we're going to have a discussion. We're going to have a discussion about it. And I asked him if he I haven't got a response yet. So I'm hoping he will call the channel for the very first time. Once we get in to open up the phone lines, I'm going to ask the dude of West Virginia to give us a call. I know he's been thinking about this. I know he has had discussions with people, and I want to get, talk about specifics with them. I do think there's a couple big hurdles, ones that he did not mention, but maybe he does have some sort of solution to those hurdles as well. So, before we get into all that, I want to thank everybody who's come on in on this lazy, nice little Thursday afternoon. Although I seem to be all fired up. The Walking Geek is in the house. Mr. Monkey says second in the house. Michael Uten, Cloak and Dagger member. DP, hello, Cloak and Dagger member. Doug Hauser, is here. Hagen is here. GT, Bimba 7579 is here. Jamie Chapman is on time. Holy smokes. Expedition Greg, who's already put out a gift membership. Incredible generosity. Big Dog Daddy, who already put out a super chat. A big one. Thank you, Big Dog Daddy. Incredible generosity, helping us keep the lights on. Pike is here. Richard L. Boston University, shorthanded goal. Up over the Denver Pioneers. Holy smokes. The Frozen Four has begun. Adam is here. Caleb is here. Kenner is here. Daniel is here. Holy smokes. Mrs. Arkansas Razorback. Jamie Thornton is in the house. Mick Steve. Well, the only thing I will say about that is, you know what? I won't say it. I will not say it. Mick Stevens is in the house. D5 Terps. Stephen Vitt. Buckshot Kid is here. Early Peak member. Stephen McNeely. Early Peak member. Morris Simmons, you were gifted a membership by Expedition Greg. Morris Simmons, you are hereby officially knighted. Cloak and Dagger. Congratulations, Morris Simmons. You can go into our YouTube channel and go check out those membership-only YouTube episodes. We dropped an important one yesterday. We dropped an episode for everybody today. Episode 388. Go check that out after this live show. Episode 388. Your mark. Making sure Big 12 has a seat at the table. Go check that out. Episode 388. Okay, let's see who else came in early. Holy smokes, a lot of people here early. Go Black 45. Let the G5 have their own championship. You know, they may have, if you read between the lines just a little bit, maybe this AAC commissioner is thinking about, no, we don't want to lose our playoff access to the expanded 12-team playoffs, but maybe there can be another playoff, another type of structure, format for another playoff. Possibly, maybe. I think that's what I read when I read in between the lines. I want to hear what you guys think when we go through the information. Tom Watley is in the house. The doctor has arrived. William Carroll is here. John Menser. Anthony Carlson engaged. Holy smokes. We got just about everybody. Jimmy is here. Thomas Hickman. Brother Mazone is in the house. Jeno is here. Taking a shot at the commissioner. Jim Phillips. Daniel is here. Bobby Davis is here. Jeff Beaver is here. The Big Lubbock. Jim Reese. Well, as we used to say back in the day, us old people, Gene Watson is here. Us old people, when we used to watch Monday Night Football on ABC, Howard Cosell would say, when the Miami Dolphins and the Buffalo Bills were playing, and O.J. Simpson was on the Buffalo Bills, Howard Cosell would say, Miami's got the oranges, but Buffalo's got the juice. Well, Miami may have the oranges, but somewhere else might have the juice. And I'll just leave it at that. I would just leave it as that. Okay, we've got a stacked show. We have a stacked show today. Let's get to the AAC. Then we're going to talk about ESPN. Are they going to use their velvet hand to get everything figured out? To have every party in agreement so we don't have to keep going through this court case and all this expensive pain, all this risk that everybody's taking. We'll go through that. We will go through that. But first, the AAC boss says there's room for more postseason college football. Man, I tell you what, day one, this new AAC boss, the American Athletic Conference boss, he said a whole lot. Incoming American Athletic Conference Commissioner Tim Pernetti. We got Tony Petitti, Tim Pernetti, Brett Yormark. You know, they're all from the same region of the country. You ever notice that? Tim Pernetti, who will have a set on the College Football Playoff Management Committee, said the evolution of the sports postseason is encouraging. But there's also room for more beyond the CFP and current bowl systems. That's what I was just talking about. Could there be another playoff formed of this, like a college football NIT, at least for the G5 schools? Maybe. When I say room for more, maybe it's not what the right number is for CFP. I don't know. But what I do know is, if you look at how many institutions are playing Division I football, there's room for more beyond the CFP. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. Instead of your G5 school going to a bowl game, line them up for their own playoffs, but continue to have playoff access along with all of the FBS, right? Along with the power conferences. That's where you get the money. That's where you get the exposure. Pernetti, a veteran college sports executive and president of the IMG Academy. There's a postseason opportunities that don't exist that could be created to enhance the postseason or complement the postseason and bowl season. Very interesting. Very, 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 very interesting. Pernetti, a former athletic director at Rutgers, will join the 8 other FBS commissioners at the CFP spring meetings later this month in Irving, Texas, with retiring AAC commissioner Mike Oresco, who was the only commissioner to lead the league in its 11-year history. Oresco was there for a long time. The playoff will involve a 12-team format this fall. That will continue next year, but there's also the strong support of a 14-team model that could begin as soon as 2026. Pernetti said, tearing down the walls and having transparent conversations has never been more important for the commissioners and CFP leaders. It's not personal, Pernetti said. It's business. It's not personal, Pernetti said. We have to remember we're acting on behalf of hundreds of thousands of other people that don't get to be in there, in the room where the decisions are made. Pernetti, who also has professional experience as a television executive and from his time as the chief business officer of MLS New York City FC, inherits a conference that has gone through a significant realignment. The AAC recently added Rice, UTSA, North Texas, Florida Atlantic, UAB, and Charlotte. He said nothing is off the table. When it came to adding more members, there's always room. But there has to be a criteria, Pernetti said, and there has to be a specific way to evaluate and analyze what makes sense. Nothing is off the table when it comes to adding more members. Usually, the commissioners say, "No, we're not active right now. We're not active. We always have to keep an eye on the landscape, but we're not active. We feel good about." No. That's not Pernetti's style. We're going to see more examples of that here. No, nothing is off the table when it comes to adding more members. There's always room. There's always room. Again, and I said this early in my monologue, I think Pernetti is looking out westward. I think he wants to protect his top brands, to keep them in the boat in the AAC. I think Pernetti, I think there's going to, now he uses the phrase Shark Tank. He wants to turn his conference room into a Shark Tank. I also believe he believes there may be a shark circling the waters around the AAC. There's always room, but there has to be a criteria. And then there has to be a specific way to evaluate and analyze what makes sense. Pernetti also said private equity in college athletics is an opportunity, and pointed to the examples like partnerships in sponsoring and naming rights as something that can be done. You can tell. Now we're going to go through a quick little article from Front Office Sports. You can tell Pernetti has been thinking about this. He's had discussions about this. Private equity. Florida State comes up in the conversation. Private equity, back to the article, private equity has been heavily investing in sports for an extended period of time already, Pernetti said. and it's like it's circling the neighborhood in college sports, but it hasn't parked its car in anyone's driveway yet, and I think that's inevitable. So, AAC Commissioner Pernetti believes that private equity is going to become part of college football, college sports, and I got a feeling that private equity is probably going to park its car in AAC's parking lot, possibly earlier than anywhere else. Pernetti is being incredibly aggressive. And then finally in this article, Pernetti said he has already begun to tap in to some of the relationships he has outside of the college industry to discuss opportunities to take some big swings at some things and do things differently. The investment and the challenges and changes continue to accelerate, Pernetti says. And I think we need to do some things differently in order to keep up with it. So, look, Pernetti, the new commissioner of the AAC, he's going to get out in front of whatever's going to happen next. And he's talking private equity here. They're going to get out in front of it. They're going to put some investment into their schools. They're going to get private equity involved. They want to get out ahead of, well, again, I'm going to point out west to whatever's going to happen out west, and something is going to happen out west. Pernetti wants to get out ahead of it. Now, I want to just hit this a little bit more on the front office sports. We're going to skip through some of this. Nothing is off the table. New AAC commissioner isn't afraid of controversial ideas. Again, the ESPN article that we just went through, the front office sports article that we're going through right now, both links are provided in the description box. You can go hit the link and read the articles. Tim Pernetti told reporters he's interested in bringing private equity in the college space. And this is what's new. This is what's new in this article, and this is why we're going to talk about it. Other commissioners have come out 100% against athlete employment and unionization models. Pernetti, notably, did not. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? We're going to skip through some of this, but the new ACC commissioner, Tim Pernetti, kept repeating two phrases: taking big swings and nothing is off the table. He does not officially start until June, but he's already hinting that he's taking those ideas literally. Holy smokes. Pernetti did not specify how he might bring private equity investment into the conference, but there's a model to follow set by Florida State that could create more capital for schools' distributions, which in many ways is the glue to keeping a conference together. Currently, the AAC distributes only $9 million and $10 million to each member school every year, just a fraction of what the ACC, SEC, Big Ten, and Big 12 provide. The conference could also work with private equity investors on funding outside events or other conference-related initiatives. Turning to another controversial topic, Pernetti did not immediately discount the possibility of supporting an athletic employment and or unionization model when asked by front office sports. He said he believes there may be some aspects of athlete employment that aren't being talked about, and that he intends to learn more about the Dartmouth unionization case, but unlike other commissioners who have unilaterally declared on behalf of their own athletes that employment would be detrimental, Pernetti said he simply will ask them, do student athletes want to be employees? I want to know what our student athletes think about that. And finally, the conference he's inheriting, the American Athletic Conference, was once known as the beneficiary of the breakup of the old Big East and the last round of conference realignment. The current Big East schools broke off and took the name with them, leaving a rest and football schools to become the AAC. In the most recent round of realignment, however, the conference has become known as one of the more vulnerable, losing 3 major football brands to the Big 12 last year: Cincinnati, University Central Florida, and Houston. But now, we want this conference to be known as the most innovative in college athletics. Tim Pernetti, the commissioner, going to be the new commissioner in June of the American Athletic Conference. Holy smokes. He came out firing. Now look, this is his introductory to, he's going to be the new commissioner, right? This is his introductory press conference. He's talking about private equity in detail. He's already been talking about to people in that industry. They're going to do something. And again, okay, so you might be thinking, wow, it's Greg, it's the American Athletic Conference. Right? It's the American Athletic Conference. You know, it's they distribute 9 to 10 million per school each year. If whatever happens in the American Athletic Conference, all what Tim Pernetti is going to be doing, talking to the student athletes about unionization, whatever he's talking about, but especially the private equity part, if he pulls the trigger on that, to have a relationship with private equity and the conference, it's going to be a major explosion in the college football space, college athletics. And if it's perceived to work out for the conference in a couple years, then private equity isn't going to stop at the shores of the AAC. And once that starts getting into, if it goes into the Big 12, the ACC, the Big 10, and the SEC, oh man, we're gonna have massive. We're going through massive changes. We're barely able to stay on this wild tiger of college football. But if that happens, so again, it's important to watch what's going on in the G5 conference. It's important to watch what Tim Pernetti is saying in the AAC. So I thought we had to talk about it today. It was its introductory press conference. Holy smokes. Did he make he made an impression. I can tell you that. They're going to be on the cutting edge. Now that cutting edge might make the AAC go whoop, or it might have them go straight up. And I do believe that Tim Pernetti, he's making sure that the AAC is not going to be vulnerable to other people's poaching in the G5. Not this time, not this realignment wave that is going to happen in a few years, especially with Oregon State and Washington State building up something out west. Okay, now, let's get to hold on, everybody. Hold on. Okay. We're going to get to Christopher Lambert's, the dude of West Virginia. His account is at Inside the Big 12. at Inside the Big 12. So if you want to give the dude of West Virginia a follow, go ahead. I'm just checking out some notes here. Just give me a moment. I might have to check out something here. I might have to checks out some information after we go through Christopher Lambert's train of thought here on in regards to what we coined the phrase the velvet hand of ESPN. I'm going to go through this, put down your comments and thoughts in the chat room, and we'll get through it, and then we're going to open up the phone lines. The dude of West Virginia. I have some legitimate insider information from a source in the sports broadcasting industry that I was going to write up and disseminate, but I don't have the time, so I'm just going to spill the beans here and now and see who takes notice. But first, do me a favor, remember who and what and when, keep track of how many of the details I'm sharing tonight come to fruition. ESPN has approached Florida State, Clemson, and the ACC about a potential settlement allowing the Seminoles and Tigers to leave the ACC whenever they want. But an ESPN broker deal is only possible if Florida State and Clemson leave for the SEC. Why? I'm glad you asked. Now, we've talked about this. We've talked about this scenario in regards to SEC being able to eat first, second, third, possibly fourth, first at the ACC table because of the scenario that C.W. Lambert, the dude of West Virginia, is laying out. ESPN is the exclusive rights holder for both the ACC and SEC. Moreover, ESPN is a partner in both the ACC network and the SEC network. ESPN would not lose money if Florida State and Clemson are in the SEC opposed to the ACC. The basics of the potential settlement are Florida State and Clemson would pay an exit fee equal to what Texas and Oklahoma paid to the exit of the Big 12. Number two, the ACC would retain the rights to Florida State and Clemson home games, but license those rights to the ESPN for SEC broadcast. Number three, the ACC receives 50% of the market share of the SEC value of Florida State and Clemson home games in both football and basketball. The percentage the ACC receives would decrease each year of the agreement. ESPN would pick up the option on the ACC's contract until 2036, but would renegotiate terms to reflect the loss of value from losing Florida State and Clemson. And that's the part where I would, one of my questions would be, is what is Wake Forest, Syracuse, what are those schools getting out of this? Why would they acquiesce to this? Why would they vote on? Why? Because they're not getting any money. They're going to have a contract, but it's going to be renegotiated anyways. I'm not sure what they're getting out of the deal. And they're going to have to get something out of the deal for Jim Phillips to be able to say yes to all this. But we'll continue. Maybe there's a solution to that. The SEC, and there's other hurdles on this, but the dude of West Virginia does a great job of laying it out. The SEC, namely, Florida State and Clemson, would be contractually obligated to play a top-tier ACC program each year. My source tells me the details above are the initial opening proposition, and they will change slightly as negotiations change the details. but the basics will remain the same. Why? I'm glad you asked. The proposed settlement mitigates the damages to everyone. To everyone. The ACC survives because ESPN picks up the option to 2036. But their losses will be offset by the percentage of Florida State and Clemson rights they retain. I guess maybe that is the solution to my previous question. Florida State and Clemson win by leaving the ACC. 50% of the SEC is more than 100% of ACC money, and each year they claw back a percentage of their home media rights. Everyone saves legal fees and public embarrassment. Expect the percentage the ACC receives from Florida State and Clemson's TV rights to be negotiated down from the starting point of 50%. 35% is more likely the starting point. Expect that to drop to 3 to 5% each year until it's zero. But you can expect the ACC will retain some percentage of Florida State and Clemson's rights into 2036. So what Christopher Lamberts is saying is the ACC is going to get some of that revenue that normally would go to Florida State and Clemson, right? But the SEC is going to be paying Florida State and Clemson, so they're not going to be losing out. They're just going to get a ticket out of the ACC. So Florida State and Clemson will really benefit from it years from now. And the ACC is not going to take a big loss because they're going to retain some of the percentage of Florida State and Clemson rights, although that percentage would go down every year. The dude of West Virginia says, my source pointed out it's critical that the ACC negotiate in good faith and accept the survival of the conference depends on the acceptance of this offer at the best terms they can negotiate. But the ACC doesn't have much leverage. If the ACC doesn't settle with Florida State and the Clemson, then ESPN will not pick up the option on its TV contract. They will have no TV revenue beginning in 2027, and the conference will breach the terms of the GOR, thus voiding it. Expect the settlement in time to allow Florida State and Clemson to begin SEC play in 25 and 26. And yes, ESPN will pressure the SEC to take them both. Why? ESPN has accepted the inevitable departure of Florida State and Clemson from the ACC. ESPN loses considerable money if Florida State and Clemson end up in the Big Ten. ESPN will do everything it can to avoid that scenario. But here's a warning to the ACC and to its fans. The ACC can't play hardball. If it becomes clear the ACC and Florida State Clemson can't reach an agreement, then ESPN will promptly decline the 2027 ACC option and engineer the move of the ACC's top football properties to the SEC and Big 12. The Big 12 would benefit the most from ACC's refusal to use common sense and avoid disaster. But it would necessarily be an economic boon for the Big 12. Think pro rata additions plus a contract extension that gives the Big 12 security until 2036. The takeaway is this. The ACC can save itself by being pragmatic. But an agreement of this nature requires that all parties involved use common sense and see the writing on the wall clearly. Unfortunately, it's not an automatic that the ACC realizes its predicament and accepts it has no choice but to listen to ESPN. There's a fault line running through the ACC that divides its membership in half. Some, like UNC, are going to be unhappy. The question is, will the ACC's new contract resulting from the settlement pay schools like Louisville, Miami, North Carolina State, and Virginia Tech enough? Will the renegotiated contract pay enough to win a supermajority of votes needed to approve a settlement? Here's my advice to the ACC. Remember what happened to the Big 12. Interesting. Very interesting. He took the time to write it down in detail, the scenario. It does solve some issues. Again, there's a couple things. One is, if I'm Syracuse or Wake Forest, if I'm a school that's not going to be able to get to the Big Ten and the SEC, do I want my contract be renegotiated with ESPN without all that money that is rightfully, from their perspective, coming to me? Because Florida State and Clemson should be paying an exit fee, right? I don't know what the drive-in incentive is for a lot of those ACC schools. You can say, well, because if they did this, ESPN would promise that the contract goes to 2036. But whatever schools remain out of the ACC, if this whole thing implodes, if Florida State pays out $150, $200 million exit fee, same with Clemson, same with a few other schools, though all the other ACC schools, they're going to get some sort of conference, some sort of contract. It's going to be on a big discount. But to walk away from that money, I don't know, to walk away from that exit money and possibly grant a rights money, I'm not sure. But here is the big hurdle for me to have this happen is, what about North Carolina? They don't get in on this. What stops North Carolina from going to the courts? And then possibly with North Carolina State. Then what stops Miami from going to the courts? Do those schools have to sign some sort of legal document that says we won't take you to court? I don't know. Once you open up the door to Florida State and Clemson, right, then you're opening up the door for the other schools. I don't know how that would work. Also, people are like mowing vision. I still think you're going to see the Justice Department crack down due to market allocation scheme. If ESPN did this, if they were able to move some properties around like that. I don't think it's, again, I've heard this from Moen, but I've heard this from other people as well. They don't use the term market allocation, but they're using other terms. It's not that simple. Again, ESPN hasn't done any of this, right? Remember, ESPN, if they can use the velvet hand to solve all this, they haven't used it yet, have they? In fact, they went into the court in Leon County, and they basically accused the Florida State lawyers of possibly committing a felony because Florida State attorneys want the trade secrets of ESPN to come out in the open under the state Florida sunshine laws. So that's another But it's interesting. It is interesting. And we've talked about it. We've asked the questions. Can ESPN behind the scenes with the velvet hand gently move things around to where this thing can be solved? And another question, is the relationship between ESPN and Florida State so broken that Florida State would look at this, even if it was possible, even if somebody came up to Florida State with this type of offer, would Florida State would they even accept it? I don't know. It's a lot to marinate, but there is a lot of hurdles there, but the number one part of this is I don't know how you can put the toothpaste back in the tube. Florida State, and I appreciate the dude of West Virginia. Unbelievable job, writing all that up, all that detail. We've talked about it before, but not in that detail. So I say thank you to Christopher Lambert. And once we open up the phone lines, which we're going to do here any minute, hopefully he calls in the show, 763-260-1333. What we do know here at Peek Around the Corner, and we reported to you for over the last year, Clemson has done so much work. Florida State had done so much work in paying lawyers, consultant fees, strategizing, talking with each other in their attempts to get out of the ACC, to take the ACC to court. You have the relationship between Florida State and the ACC is abysmal. The relationship between Florida State and ESPN, probably even worse. I think Florida State is going for the jugular at this point. What happened in Leon County, I don't think they're going for the half a loaf. They may go for 3/4 of the loaf before they settle. In this situation, I don't think that's 3/4 of the loaf. And I think Clemson has the same. They're going to probably get priority, Pickens County. I think Florida State and Clemson is too far out gone. I think if ESPN really wanted to do this, they had plenty of warning. The ACC has had plenty of warning on this. Remember, Phillips, they went to, they went to Mecklenburg County December 21st, the day before Florida State. They had it all written up. Everybody's been waiting for these bombs. December 22nd, 2022, I came on live and I said in the first quarter of 2024, Florida State was going to make a declaratory statement. They were going to put their flag into the ground. Now it happened 9 days before that first quarter 2024, but we almost nailed the time. And why did we almost nail the time? Because we were told. This was not a secret within a specific circle at Florida State. And we've had Clemson standing next to Florida State at the center of the stage, not by accident. And we have North Carolina holding Clemson's hand at the edge of the stage, not by accident. And we have North Carolina State in the first row, not by accident. There's been a whole lot of... ESPN has had plenty of time, if they had the ability to use the velvet hand. If they wanted if they had the motivation to use the velvet hand. They've had a very long landing strip to fly the plane, to land the plane, in terms of getting this all figured out, to make sure that Fox did not get into the Southeast, to make sure that the Big Ten did not get south. They've had a lot of time, ESPN, to plan this out, and they haven't done it. In fact, they've only done the opposite. ESPN has only done the opposite. Now, maybe they're playing bad cop, good cop at ESPN. Maybe, they send out in their motion to seal, part of the motion to seal, almost accusing Florida State of felony charges. They used the word felony in their pleadings. ESPN lawyers. So, I don't know. But I want to hear what you guys think. Could ESPN, could they behind the scenes, still at this time, April 11th, move the pieces around to satisfy all parties? And what do you think about the AAC commissioner? Ruthless aggression. He's turning his conference room into the Shark Tank, private equity. What do you think about that? I'm going to open up the phone lines. You can give me a call, 763-260-1333. 763-260-1333. If Christopher Lambert is watching the show, please give us a call. The dude of West Virginia puts out a fantastic thread on X in detail explaining this particular potential scenario.
Call from
Moen,
Mr. Buckeye, the floor is yours, but let me ask you a question first about the Buckeyes.
Sure.
Is there any quarterback out of those five, and I'm talking Kleinholz, is any of them going into the portal on April 16th?
Yeah, you're going to have to imagine at least one, if not two, do. But I don't think either one of them will land at Minnesota, Greg. I apologize, but everything in Columbus says Lincoln's going to Iowa, and Devin Brown might be going to somewhere in the ACC, like North Carolina. So,
holy smokes! I hope he goes to North Carolina. I hope Devin Brown goes to North Carolina. Because if Minnesota's not good enough for Devin Brown, well, we're going to be playing North Carolina in Huntington Bank Stadium that Thursday opening night, baby. Let's do it. Devin Brown versus Max Brosmere. If we're not good enough for Brown, let's see if he's good enough to play in Huntington Bank Stadium. What about them apples?
It's fine with me, Greg. I'm not making the decision.
All right, sir. What's on your mind? I apologize.
Yeah, I just wanted to call in this whole. I got somebody sent me that thread earlier today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the way that's described. That is called a market allocation scheme. It violates the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890. That would put them directly under the direct Department of Justice. You can also have congressional inquiries into it. So I don't know that Disney, they're already fighting some antitrust stuff with the Fox Studios acquisition.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I don't know that they want to put this on there as well. Because Disney is not, there's people within the government that are not huge fans of Disney at the moment. Yeah. I don't think that they want to put this on there for two college football teams. In the grand scheme of things, it's a drop of water in the ocean for them. So I don't think that they're looking to do that. This reads to me like fantasy booking, like we've talked about.
Yeah.
People trying to read the tea leaves and then extrapolate from there to reach their desired conclusion, because it doesn't make any sense.
And one of the big problems is it's not, if this was all to happen, What does North Carolina's not going to sit there, right? They're not going to be in a diminished
Right.
and not to grab that money. And that's one just even if it could work, it would be hard. It would be impossible to keep it all stabilized even after all that. So, yeah.
Yeah. You're punching a hole in the boat. You're not going to be able to cover. So, that, just it's pure fantasy booking, I think. I don't know the gentleman. I'd never heard of the gentleman before today, but
the dude of West Virginia and myself, we had about a 10-year battle back and forth. So, but we're good now. We're on good terms. So,
okay. Well, I don't know the dude.
Yeah.
Hopefully the dude abides, but
he does. Yeah, he does. I got to ask you a question, though.
I just don't see it.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
AAC Commissioner Tim Pernetti. He came out firing today, man. I think if we look at the on any given Saturday sports book here in the PATC community, I think we're going to look at the board here pretty soon and see that it's chalk, that it's the favorite, that Tim Pernetti is going to bring in private equity in the AAC. It's pretty fascinating what he had to say today. What are your thoughts on it?
It's a great possibility. I mean, he has to be on the defensive.
Yes.
He has to be. With the ACC being destabilized, that's the first place the ACC is going to look.
Yeah.
They're going to look to Oregon State and Washington State. Then they're going to look to schools like Tulane. So he's got to play defense. And, I mean, he's right. The best defense is a good offense. I think that's what Jim Phillips failed to recognize. His offensive move was to get SMU and Cal and Stanford. And all that ended up doing was actually destabilizing his conference further.
Yeah.
You had three of your biggest brands stand up in unity and say no. You had four at one point, and North Carolina State flip-flopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, good offense, he's got to bolster his league as much as he can.
Yeah.
And I don't fault him for it. And I agree with him. There's probably going to be a different more playoff football within the G5 itself, especially if they don't get any of the seeds into the, more than one seed into the playoff.
Yeah, I think for now though he's talking about an additional playoff. Not they're gonna keep their playoff access for the next, at least to 2031. But he's talking about let's have another. I think what he's talking about. I might be wrong, but it sounds like he's talking about.
That's the way I read it too. Is he's talking about having a separate, almost like an NIT sort of deal for the G5, where the best of the best, the best of the rest play off. And he wants to do that obviously to generate more revenue because,
maybe the Gophers can get an invitation to that. What do you think? Huh?
I think the Gophers, I'll tell you what, Greg, I think the Gophers are going to be fine. I have yet to see this Max kid throw the ball against a high-level defense.
Well, I tell you what, sir. There's an open practice going on right now at the Athletic Village. Basically, it's the spring football game, but they're not calling it that this year. They're not really having one because they can never have. I think 5 of the last 6 spring football games have been snowed out. We've had to move it into the Athletic Village anyways. But anyways, having said all that, the word on Max Brosmere is he's great in the room. Like, he knows the plays better than Anthony Kalamakis. He loves the guy. He's already been voted captain. He's got all the intangibles. However, and of course there's always a however when it comes to Golden Gopher football. He's thrown a few interceptions during spring football. I think he's having trouble with the speed of the game. So hopefully he's got a good enough of a ceiling, enough talent to, So we'll see. Yeah.
Well, I hope so too, Greg. I got my fingers crossed for you, but
I appreciate it,
it's
buddy.
hard to tell until you got Jack Sawyer breathing down your neck. You know,
Well, we're not playing the
pads,
Buckeyes until the Big Ten championship game this year, so I'm not worried for a while.
Well, I will leave you at that, Greg. Good luck to the Gophers.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Great call. Appreciate it. Excellent. Mr. Buckeye. Speaking of Ethan Kaliak-Manis, the Greek rifle, keep chopping. I could see a 2-quarterback system working pretty well, although that's frustrating. Wimsatt can run well. Ethan Kaliak-Manis actually has incredible wheels on him. He can run. He just doesn't take off that much. Kaliak-Manis and Wimsatt. It's going to be very interesting what happens there.
Call from
Ryan Thomas.
Ryan Thomas, the floor is yours. How you doing, sir?
Well, I was about to say no future Big Ten expansion until Moen calls into the show again. And
yes.
It looks like it's happening. It's happening, Greg. It's happening.
Yes.
Glad to hear you're doing well, Moen. You've been in our thoughts and prayers. It's always great to hear you, man. Keep up the good work, man, and keep going.
Yeah.
All the best. I could see this being on ESPN's wish list, Greg, but, there's the old famous, the famous, quote, it takes two to tango, or, it takes two to agree to a deal. And, I don't really see any incentive for some of the ACC schools to do this. And also, Moen's point is absolutely correct and great. The thing that I see here is I think ESPN's probably going to let the dust settle on some of this, and once it sort of settles, then they might try to help kind of smooth things out as far as making everybody happy to move the process along. But I don't think they're going to do it until the players in the process have sort of decided what they want to do. I know that kind of sounds confusing, but I mean, it's just overall what I'm trying to get at is I think, I'm sure they would love to have FSU and Clemson in the SEC, but I mean, they can't for obvious reasons because back in 2021 with Texas and Oklahoma, they got their hand caught in the cookie jar. And I think they're going to want to kind of be careful to avoid that. And also, the other thing I want to point out, too, is you don't renegotiate a unilateral option. It's a unilateral option for a reason. It's either you go or no go. And so, that's the thing people need to realize is, it's sort of, you just don't. You can't, because if you renegotiate it, that means that the option isn't unilateral. It means the other side has a say in something. So, I mean, I think it's just, ESPN will make a decision what to do with that. And at that point, if they don't pick up the option, then it doesn't matter whether or not the gore goes till 2036 or not, Greg. It has zero value because there's no TV deal affixed to it. And to get a new TV deal means that the conference would all have to agree to it, which basically means that you're not going to get anyone to agree to it. So in simpler words, the minute that option's not picked up, after 2026, everybody's a free agent.
Yeah.
And if you're a free agent and you can get more money somewhere else, why are you sticking around continuing to be paid at that low market value? I don't see North Carolina or, I just don't see, I don't see certain schools like that just doing that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And, we'll see what happens. And also, for ESPN, if they somehow get certain brands, if they somehow miraculously got Clemson and FSU into the SEC, if that happens, you've heard me say this before, that means that the way that ESPN, the way that gets paid for is the SEC would have to go to a ninth conference game. And, those matchups would maximize the value of FSU and Clemson to ESPN, far offsetting the bargain deal that they're getting on the current ACC deal. So at that point, you kind of move the brands that you still want to keep paying that money, that $32 million. You kind of move those brands over to the Big 12, and you cut the fat with the rest. And, I just think that's I think there's a lot to go, and I'll just end with that, Greg. I think we're a long way to go, but I will say the deadline for settlement, or you'll start seeing things move closer to a settlement as we get towards November and December, because that option for 2025, it's not getting extended in February. It's not getting extended beyond February 2025 at this point.
Maybe it is. Maybe it will be.
The question.
How many votes would the AAC? Now, we know the last time Phillips did it unilaterally, extended the deadline from 2021 to 2025. But
if it turns out he didn't have the authority to do that, then he won't be able to do that.
But what if he has the votes to do it? What if
I doubt that he...
Remember, Stanford and SMU and California become voting members in another couple months.
But again, let's go back to this here. Let's take a look at your schools like Virginia Tech and maybe a Louisville or a Miami or others. Going back to the entire group, maybe those that haven't even left the NC States and UVAs and Virginia Techs and UNCs. Why do you vote for that if you could possibly end up in a better position by being a free agent after that period anyway? I mean, right now, if you all believe that you're being paid below market rate, why would you agree to continue to be paying that low amount when you have the Big 12 going to market one more time before you do in 2031? And you're going to be stuck at that same level until 2036. I don't see any incentive for any school to want to agree to that, Greg.
Yeah.
You're kind of, you're basically agreeing to continue shooting yourself in the foot. So I mean, that's why when people think that I'm nuts for saying that I think this is head towards full implosion, it's just because the deal is so bad, Greg, that, I think it benefits certainly more than half the members. It benefits more than half the members to find a way to scrap it. And, I think it's, all I can say is I hope that I've hoped that you've ordered 3 times the amount of popcorn you budgeted for, you think you're going to need at the PATC theater, Greg, because I would just say start hiring people, open up a couple more concession stands, because it's going to be a pretty busy place, Greg.
You got it. I think you might be right, sir. I think you might be right.
So, great job on the show. I'll let others call in. Glad that you're doing well, Mo, and keep up good work, Greg.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Great call. This is interesting. I've been told that maybe, not maybe, but I would keep your head on a swivel tomorrow in regards to Mecklenburg County. Mecklenburg County, keep your head on a swivel tomorrow. Here's the situation with me. Myself and the little general are heading out of town for the weekend. Whatever happens, now I'm going to be here in the morning. I'll be in the studio. I'll probably work on some sort of hold on one second.
Call from Jamie Thornton.
Jamie, can you just hold on for a moment?
Oh, absolutely.
I appreciate it. I'm just trying to finish my thought here. So I'll be in the studio tomorrow morning. If it comes out tomorrow morning, I may do a brief live show or at least an episode on it. But whatever transpires for Friday and Saturday, I will be back in town Sunday night. The Little General has already given us the okay. We're going to be doing a live show late Sunday night. So whatever happens or doesn't happen, we're going to be covering it Sunday night, April 14th. But I would keep your head on a swivel in regards to something in the Mecklenburg County courts tomorrow. I've been told something just about 6 minutes ago. Yeah, 6 minutes ago. So giving you a peek around the corner and something that I might not be here to cover until Sunday night. So, but anyways, Jamie Thornton, Mrs. Arkansas Razorback, the floor is yours.
Yeah, we pick Suey, Greg. By the way, if you guys have any great players that want to hit that portal for Coach Cal, he's got it opened up. We have that massive team, 3 players.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be picking up any golfer, but although we had a better year than most years this year, we did pretty good. We won 20 games, but yeah, I don't.
Well,
think...
it's a.
Go ahead.
You're right. I got you.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time to say the least, and it's so fascinating. I messaged you.
Yeah.
Immaculate and I went into overtime last night. We just had, I don't know, I wish he was here today, but we had about a 4 or 5 hour conversation, and this kept coming up, right? And I know it's coming up for everybody. Why hasn't ESPN renewed the option? Why? What's going on? And certainly this theory has been brought up before. Like you said, it hasn't been brought up into this much detail about it. It could be one of those things where maybe ESPN felt like nothing would get exposed, no secrets would get out. They felt pretty strong, the ACC did, about their court case. But as we saw in Florida the other day, that's not necessarily the case at all. Now it's just curious, and it's good to hear from the dude again. I remember him back years and years ago, like you said. I mean, he's a classic in all this.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating scenario that we're essentially talking about blackmail here. We're essentially talking about ESPN going to Jim Phillips, and essentially, if you want a conference still, you accept this offer. I mean, that's almost what it comes down to. Because if we pull it and everybody can leave, I mean, it's just like it's just fast. It just sums up ESPN perfectly. We know they don't play clean, and they don't want to lose FSU to Fox. I mean, let's just face it. I mean, FSU gets tremendous ratings, and that is one school you do not want to lose to Fox. You would rather tell them and Clemson, say, hey, we're not going to charge you a penny, You're just going to come on over, stay in the SEC, and then they don't lose that. So I think there's real legs to the story, without a doubt. And, whether we ever find out if it's factual or not, we probably never will. But in my opinion, and of course I'm just a Razorback, so what do I know? But FSU has put a lot of money into research and trying to follow that AAU status, and you don't do that if you're trying to get into the SEC. There's nothing wrong with high academic standards, and certainly the SEC wants to improve their academic profile. And I mean, hey, if you look at 3 of the last 4 schools the SEC has added in Texas A&M and Missouri, they're all AAU schools. But in this case, where Florida State and Miami has just gotten AAU status, the 2 are paired. I mean, that's just another thing, the academic fits of those schools, how they fit perfectly for the Big Ten. You don't see Clemson doing that. So very interesting. I really do hope, I would love to hear, because it's been a long time it's been a long, long time. But yeah, there's been some great interviews that Chris gave back in the day. I hate that you guys everybody has disagreements. I'm glad you got that worked out, but he was a really good guy. I've told a few people in here I'm friends with the guy that's known as MHBER3 on there, and he's a really good guy. He's been going through a lot of personal tragedy, so he hasn't been on as much anymore. Mm-hmm. Those West Virginia guys are special, man. They love their football up there.
Yeah.
And it's just who knows at this point. There's so much going on. These court cases are popping up. There's no doubt, I don't think in any of our minds, that the North Carolina Board of Governors, there's going to be another lawsuit filed coming down the road. It's just a matter of when, not if. And it's clear. I mean, it's clear on how the schools have voted and everything that you're going to see, UNC, NC State, Clemson, and FSU one out, period. And I think when that happens, Miami, we've had a disagreement with that. I know Immaculate loves Georgia Tech and all that. But Miami just seems like the perfect partner, and I think that, if all these other schools leave, it's going to be a lot easier for them to pull the trigger and make that move to the big at the time when it comes time. So it will be interesting to see, though. I mean, I don't know. I'd love to have JD call in. Jen, somebody that's connected deeply to Florida State. I mean, I know, right? Like, do you go through, like you said, the toothpaste is out of the tube? But do you make all this go away and you get out of the ACC if this was legit and really happened? If this was real, and I'm just asking you, as you're the Florida State president, do you make the move? Do you do it?
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
I mean, because you put all this effort in clearly into what you really want. And I know you want out of the ACC, but is that what you really, really want, just to be out of the ACC?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think you really want in the big. I mean, I think you've laid the groundwork. You've done all that. I'm not saying you couldn't still be a great research school in the SEC. I'm not saying that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
All right. Have you heard anything about spring football at Arkansas? What's going on?
Man, everything there has been all about basketball, as you could imagine.
All right.
I mean, it's been all about basketball. So I haven't heard a whole lot, but I'll get on that. I mean, everybody right now is just in Calipari heaven right now, if you can imagine. They didn't think this was going to happen. I mean, honestly, seeing him in that red suit with the Razorback on it, and of course now, and this is, I mentioned it the other day, Greg. It's really fascinating with NIL and how it's hit. Now, we can see the impact on basketball. They did just have a meeting today, and this is what happens when you have billionaire boosters. I don't think a lot of people realize how many billionaire boosters Arkansas had. There's a little jealousy from a report today that the Tysons, right? Of course, that Tyson Chicken, which is a billionaire that's Calipari's friend, is dishing out the NIL money. Well, the Waltons want to get involved, so the Waltons were involved. There were multiple members from, of course, Walmart, the Walton family. Apparently, Jerry Jones was involved in that today. There was a get-together of Hunt Trucking, which is one of the largest trucking companies in America. Arkansas has about 7 or 8 billionaire boosters, and so they have the money. But and like they said, they talked a little bit about this on 365 Sports the other day. How do you say a billionaire? You don't like to give out your money unless there's something to give it out for. Mm-hmm. And, this tells me that if they're dishing out this kind of money and Arkansas basketball is successful, I'm telling you, Sam Pittman better be worried over there, because it's not to say that if they see this succeed in basketball, if they decide they want to get rid of him and pay the money, I'm telling you, this is the day. This is where having the money. And you talk about schools like SMU, the Texas schools, Arkansas, anywhere where they have these billionaire boosters that can pay for it. If they want to pay and dish the money out, it's going to change the college football landscape. That's why I tell people, like North Carolina, for instance, they may not have a big football history, but if they get in the SEC, they have that money. I mean, they have the boosters and they want to do it. How NIL can change everything from what we're used to. So. Anyway, Greg, thanks for the great show. I hope the dude calls in, and I hope you and the little general have a safe trip.
You got
it. I do
appreciate it.
You guys.
Thank you,
thanks,
Jamie.
Greg.
Great call. do appreciate it. Expedition Greg, Immaculate. Have you heard about the rumor that Iowa's a landing spot for Ohio State quarterback transfer Lincoln Kleinholz? Kleinholz was a really good quarterback out of the state of South Dakota. So if he's going in the portal, man, getting closer to home, Iowa could very well be the perfect spot. Iowa, Kansas, Kansas State. Kansas and Kansas State. The Jayhawks and the Wildcat. Kansas and Kansas State and Minnesota are the three primary candidates for a great defensive end coming out of South Dakota, class of 2025. We're the three schools that looks like he's going to be taking a visit to all three of us. And anyways, I'll talk about that later on. But we got to close up our live show here. We've been on the air for almost 2 hours, not quite. No, an hour and a half. We got quite a busy Thursday. We're leaving. We're going out of town Friday, close to noontime, Central Time. So I already gave everybody a peek around the corner. We got a tip at 5:58 p.m. Central Time, 6:58 Eastern Time. We got a tip that I think everybody should have their head on a swivel in regards to the Mecklenburg County Court tomorrow. Now, unfortunately, we are not going to be able to cover it here at Peek Around the Corner unless I get on my phone at poolside and I do a little bit of PATC on my phone, but probably not going to do that. But anyways, whatever we miss for Friday and Saturday, and I'm going to be here in the morning, so if I'm able to do a smaller live show tomorrow morning, I will do that. But if I can't cover what's about the pop, then I will do a live. I'm definitely PATC is going to be doing a Sunday night live show. So look for us then. If you're new to the channel, and if you haven't done so yet, please hit the subscribe button, have your notifications on, and smash the like button. But subscribe and have your notifications on, so we're going to let you know when we're on, so you can catch us Sunday night, PATC, and possibly a PATC breakfast tomorrow morning. So I want to thank the generous people with the donations. I want to thank the people in the chat. And I want to thank the people with the phone calls. I appreciate PATC community. We've had a pretty busy week. Me and the wife are headed out for a little we're going to have some fun over the weekend in an undisclosed location somewhere in the sunny skies of southern Minnesota. Anyways, I appreciate you all coming in. Until next time, from all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.